It's not looking like the wealth of fancy options we've had in recent years, but there are still some names to look out for come draft day, and we are bringing in the big guns for support on this show. It's UK Fancy Royalty, the host of the Dynasty Hotseat. Mags, how excited are you about this 2026 draft class?
Kind of. Like it's. Like after that wonderful, amazing intro with those unbelievable graphics, by the way, love those. Yeah, it's a shame that we got to talk about these guys because they're fine. We're going to talk about actually the players you've selected today are a lot of the ones that I really do like. So we are going to get a lot of positives today. Things do start to tail off towards the back end of your first round and into your second round, but we got a hell of a lot of fun players to talk about. It is definitely rookie season. Everyone getting excited, and I'm excited to be here. First time on the show.
It is. We are very glad to have you, and say Ed and I, college experts, we are not. So we've done our research, but I'm hoping you are the answers at the back of the book for this. I'm hoping that my notes match up. You've said, though, about being that quiet draft class, and as it stands, as per NFL mock draft database, there are 9 fancy relevant players due to go off the board in round 1. That has gone up over the last couple of weeks. That was 7 a couple of weeks ago. Ty Simpson and Concepcion has snuck into there at the minute as well. In 2025, we had 8 go off in round 1 and 28 over the first 3 rounds. But running back depth felt like it saved us from a fancy point of view last year. 2024, however, 14 fancy relevant players in round 1. I think they were all quarterbacks or wide receivers pretty much as well. We were spoiled for choice. 31 over the first 3 rounds. I think it's important to point out, though, it is still early in the draft season. This time last year, Shedeur Sanders was still in with a shout of the number 1 overall, and we all know how that turned out. Let's get stuck in, though. And first player we've said about the number 1 overall, we think we know where that is going to be going this season as well. So let's talk about Fernando Mendoza. Best of an underwhelming group of QBs, I think, is the kindest way to put it. By default, it looks like he's going to be pick number 1, go into the Raiders. But for fantasy, does that give us excitement, Mags?
You know what? I think it weirdly does, especially now with their whole new coaching staff coming in. It looks like they're just putting a fresh lick of paint. And then whenever you look at Mendoza, and you really worry about a few things for a rookie quarterback coming in. The first one is the offensive line, which I think the Raiders definitely still have to do a lot of work with. But if you're looking at weapons to throw to, you've got Brock Bowers there already, which I think is absolutely an amazing weapon to have in your arsenal to begin with. Then you can kind of lean back on Ashton Jeanty as well a little bit. If you're not wanting to, hit the ground running immediately, you can allow that run game to develop with Jeanty, and then, give Mendoza a bit of a lighter schedule with his throwing. I really do like it. I think how they address the offensive line in free agency, or I don't know how much they can do in the draft, considering they're picking 1 overall. But if they can address offensive line and free agency, I think it's a nice spot for Mendoza. I think the Raiders should do pretty well this year.
I mean, for the first time in the offseason, I'm going to roll out the age-old cliche. A rookie QB's best friend is his tight end, and what a better friend to have than Brock Bowers. And from kind of my analysis so far, I think that short and intermediate game is where Mendoza really thrives. And what a target you've got there. You're right, Ashton Jeanty there as well. Is a really intelligent player when you see how he reads him. I think for me, my concern is that I'm getting lots of good, not great vibes about him. So from a fancy point of view, would we be right in saying we're probably capped at a kind of, I don't know, I'm saying around best case scenario, QB 10 to 14 maybe?
Yeah, that's exactly where I have him. But, I mean, it is easy to turn your nose up at that kind of thing, but I mean, you look at a player like a Jared Goff, for example, who has lived in that sort of realm for the past 4 or 5 years. Would you pay up a first round pick 5 years ago for a Jared Goff to get the production you've got? Absolutely, you would. You're hoping Fernando Mendoza can come in and do the same thing, just be that solid, quarterback 2. If you're riding with him as your QB1, you're in a bit of trouble. But if you're playing in super flex leagues and you've got that quarterback 2 space, even if he's coming in at your quarterback 3, you're going to be really happy with Fernando Mendoza, and he's well worth, paying that paying that high first round pick for, just with the consistency that he should be able to offer you in this Raiders team.
And I think it's that rushing upside is something that's lacking from really stepping up. I think though is not, if you just look purely at the numbers from last year's production, I think you can be a bit blinded by that. So 276 yards, no good, not great. 7 rushing touchdowns. That sounds really exciting. But you look at where some of those came, and 5 were in absolute blowout games, including a 73-0 victory against the Indiana State Sycamores, heavyweights of the college game, we know.
Yep.
And I don't see that transferring necessarily. I think he's going to be good for 1 or 2 here and there, isn't he? But that's not what you're going to be drafting him for, is it?
No, he's fine. He's a perfectly able scrambler. He's bigger than you might think. He's 6 foot. He's all of 6'5" as well. He's a big lad. Like, he can get going whenever he wants to, but that's not his go-to. He's a bit like he's not only corny like Kirk Cousins, but he kind of uses his legs like old school Kirk Cousins did as well. Like, he can use the wheels when he really needs to, but don't expect him to run first.
I think there's where that Kirk Cousins comparison works for me a little bit as well is character. And I think we talk about character a lot with QBs, and we've seen it with, I'm not going to kind of weigh in and start slagging off quarterbacks, but where character has been a question mark, we have seen QBs not step up. Where character has not been in question, that's where you seem to just get that little leap when it's in adjusting to the NFL.
Yeah, I think it's especially important considering that, I mean, the first bullet point you have there is he's a nailed-on Raider. I don't know how these guys do it. I mean, you become a millionaire overnight. You're just going into like, what, 20 years old, 21 years old. You become a millionaire overnight and you get planted in Las Vegas. Good luck. You're going to have a strong character for that. And I think Fernando Mendoza passes that test. Like, it's easier said than done. These guys go to Vegas in particular. It's all well and good going to, Kansas City, Missouri in the middle of nowhere with nothing to do. Plenty to do in Vegas and LA and all these places. It's got to be tough for these guys. And I've got no doubts that Mendoza is just going to be his usual self. The guy's going to go in. He's probably going to have, he's kind of guy that, how many kids Phillip Rivers has? I think Mendoza might give him a run for his money. He seems like that kind of guy, right?
I would last a millionaire in Vegas, I reckon, a week. I reckon I'd have ruined it very quickly.
Same, yeah. Wouldn't go full Henry Ruggs, but we could
there we are, a blast from the past.
Yeah.
Right. Before we move on, if you are joining us and you are a regular and you're not subscribed yet, what are you playing at? Please click that subscribe button for us. And if you are new, why don't you stick around, spend some more time with us throughout the off season? Please do give us a subscribe. Over the off season, well, we're going to be talking a lot about this next guy. So next up is Mr. Jeremiyah Love. So I'll talk more about college usage for our next player, but he's pretty much the benchmark when it comes to college production against NFL RB1 averages. So his rush attempts last year, 49%, NFL average for RB1's 46. Rush yards, he had 56, NFL average 53. Receptions, 12 against 11. Receiving yards, 9% against 9%. Total yards, 30% against 30%. Touchdown percentage, 36%. So he is, on the numbers, prototypical. He is locked in as the 101, though, for our rookie drafts. Is there a situation you wouldn't be happy with that?
Not one that I can see coming. If he ends up, through miracle of all miracles, ending up in Detroit with Jahmyr Gibbs or something like that, then you're like, oh my goodness. Like, yeah, but looking at the draft, looking at the teams available, I've got my fingers crossed that he's going to my Kansas City Chiefs. That would even pump him up even more, locked in as the 101. I don't see, even in a super flex draft, I don't see how you don't really take Jeremiyah Love as a 101 at this stage. I think he's a cut above the rest.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's quick, he's explosive. The contact balance is just phenomenal. I mean, look at the speed he's going and the size of the humans he collides with. He just keeps going. On top of that, it's a solid pass capture. So I think 27 receptions, 280 yards, 3 touchdowns. Might not sound elite, but don't let that concern you at all. He's got it in his locker, absolutely. And say, if he did end up in Kansas, surely that is going to be a license to absolutely print your fantasy points throughout the season. Obviously, you can have that bias of the country, but what else do you see as those positive qualities that you're really hoping to see transition into the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, Jeremiah Love's one of the guys I've managed to finish my deep film study on all of these running backs at the minute, and you look at the scores for Jeremiah Love, and across the board, you're incredibly, incredibly impressed. The thing that jumps out to me about him is his elusiveness is second to none compared to anyone else you've seen. You have to go back to like a Bijan Robinson to see someone who is as elusive as Jeremiah Love. One of my favorite things about him is he's got a signature move, which is kind of like an old school kind of thing, but his spin move is a work of art. Look out for that. Week one, he's going to see that bust out for sure. We're going to see the Jeremiah Love spin move. He has got it absolutely nailed in. It is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful bit of skill that he can pull out at least once a game usually. What else really, like you mentioned, the receiving work. I think that he is truly an exceptional receiver. You could see him, really, really, really boost those fantasy points if you're playing in your PPR leagues. I think that's going to be something that will keep ticking him over for sure. Again, just going through all the things I got here. He works hard. He's composed. He's patient. Everything there. If we're going to maybe put one thing on the board that could knock him down a little bit, he didn't have what I thought was incredible power. He was fine enough. Like, he wasn't getting pushed over and bullied, but that would be the one knock I would have, is he doesn't have that game-changing, game-wrecking power. Like, you don't see him trucking over a lot of people, but to be honest, most of the time he doesn't need to, because he's, already spun past them anyway.
Where would you put him against our recent top prospects? So comparing him to a Genty, Bijan, Gibbs, where would you put him in that? Is he being elevated because behind him he's not got that same standard, or is he as good as we're all hoping he's going to be?
Yeah, I think he's like, you look at even the numbers outside of just the pure attributes. You look, he's an early declared. He's declared as a junior. His breakout age was his second year. Even going back to high school, he's a 4-star recruit, which is nothing to sniff at. He's had a clean bill of health. He's progressed every single year. You look at everything. I've got him labeled not quite as a generational prospect, but just a couple of clicks below. So yeah, he's right up there. Maybe not as high as your Bijan Robinson, but he's around the same grade as your Gibbs and your Genty of that tier below generational.
I'm really interested to see what your thoughts are on our next running back, because he's become one of my favorites to watch so far in the off season, and that is Emmett Johnson. I mentioned we're going to talk about that college usage. Let's talk elite college usage. So in 2025 in Nebraska, he had 62% of the rush attempts and 81% of the total rushing yards, 19% of the receptions, 14% of the receiving yards, and he accounted for 41% of their total yardage, the most of any rookie prospect, and 46% of their total touchdowns, the most of any rookie prospect. All of those are well above NFL RB1 averages. Am I right to be excited?
He is a hell of a lot of fun to watch. He's like, I don't know if you ever played, when I was growing up, I played a game called Beyblade, which is like this kind of thing where you like have a spinning disc and you kind of rip the spinning disc, and it kind of goes a little bit crazy and a little bit all over the place, and it kind of bumps off people and bashes into people. That's kind of what I see to Emmett Johnson. Like, the guy, I find it really difficult to break him down. And actually, he was one that I thought, actually, man, see if you got some good coaching, you could really be something special. I sometimes felt like he tried a little bit too much. It's like, right, we get it. Like, stop trying to beat a man like 3-4 times. Like, you already would have someone beat, and then he would cut back inside and get tackled. You're like, oh, come on, just less is more sometimes, perhaps, with Emmett Johnson. He's someone that didn't actually score that well on my detailed tape study, but it's because it was like a complete roller coaster. It was highs and lows, highs and lows. So even though I'm looking at a score with Emmett Johnson that is similar to some other players, I would still always take Emmett Johnson because he has those superhero traits. Like, he has that incredible elusiveness. He is an excellent receiver in the backfield. His acceleration is really, really good. The gaps that I see in him are ones that I feel you can coach a little bit more. I don't think that he has the best patience in the world. I didn't think his pad level was exceptionally good either, which affected his tackle breaking too. But I feel like you can coach patience a bit easier than you can coach, acceleration. You can coach pad level a lot easier than you can coach some of these other traits. So I feel like he's super raw, but if he can land in the right spot where a coach can mold him and get him to use his best traits, I think he could be a really, really good player, especially that receiving line.
And you spoke about the special move of Jeremiyah
Mm.
Love. Emmett Johnson has got his own special move where his little jump cut just sells
Yeah,
defenders over and over. It's like he's just hitting the same button combo on Madden over and over and over again, and it
yeah,
always works.
yeah.
But I think he struggles when it gets to contact. That's where he can struggle a little bit more. I think in lots
Mhm.
of the highlight packages you see, thinking like, I've not seen him break a tackle for a little bit. There it is. Will he get away with that against NFL backs? That's be seen. But you're right. They're the coachable elements, aren't they?
Yeah.
And that's hopefully in the right landing spot.
Mm.
Will hopefully become a bit more refined towards the end of his first season, start a second.
Yeah, I for me that was the pad level. Whenever I was looking at it, it was him constantly trying to juke and trying to put in these, hit these button moves on Madden that you spoke about, which means he's standing upright a lot of the time just to kind of feint and move around. I think if he's looking more at, I mean, you put it there as your third point, fixating on the big play. If he's just thinking about getting 10 yards instead of 90, then that kind of thing will come in and his pad level will adjust and you'll see him maybe shake off a few more tackles than you would expect. Those were the two lowest grades I had in him, were his tackle breaking and his pad level. Everything else I thought was pretty good. Patience was the other one that I thought he could have a bit more patience, but they're all directly, linked in together. You can see how they all kind of blend into each other, and I think they can all be coached out, and he's a really interesting prospect.
So Emmett Johnson is currently my RB2, but I think consensus RB2 at the minute is leaning more towards our next guy, and that is Jonah Coleman. His contact balance is absolutely ridiculous, and he's a proper solid back, and his low, kind of dense lower half allows to absorb that contact and just remain balanced and keep picking up yards. He's a reasonable, not great pass catcher, but he does look like a solid dump off option. You've seen there. In fact, he can just hurdle a man from nowhere as well. Is a fantastic little trap. I'm looking forward to seeing that at some point in season. Top end speed is a concern, but I suppose for me, the exact opposite of what you just said about Johnson. His low pad level on contact means he just
Yeah.
seems to keep getting yards after that point of contact as well. Where
Mhm.
do you see Coleman in your rankings currently?
Yeah, Coleman's quite comfortably my running back 2 at the moment. In fact, the gap between Coleman and my running back 3 is the same gap that it is between Coleman and Jeremiyah Love. So he's very much out on a tier on his own. And that's kind of because, unlike Emmett Johnson, there's no real holes in the game. You did mention it there, the long speed. That's the lowest rank that I've given him, but it's still pretty solid overall. I think that he's, again, everywhere you look, like, yeah, he can do that. He can do that. I was super impressed with, to steal a phrase from our Premier League football over here, he's got a good touch for a big man, right? He's able to move those feet really, really well. He's got sort of quick, kind of like twinkle toes almost, which you don't expect whenever you see some of those highlights of him smashing through people. Thought it was super, super composed when he got out into the backfield. I would have liked to seen a little bit more patience behind the line. You can kind of see he sometimes as well sees a gap and maybe goes for it, but does pan out for him more times than it doesn't, so I kind of get it as well. I was super impressed with his elusiveness. One thing I seem to be split on compared to other reports that I've read of him, a lot of people saying that they're not that impressed with him as a pass protector. I don't know what they were watching because I seen him absolutely dominating people in pass protection. I might need to go back and have another look, but I thought that was really good, which of course we know in a market as competitive as running back right now in the NFL, you need to be able to pass protect. And I think Jonah Coleman, from what I've seen, is pretty good at it. So he should be able to get on the field right away.
Something that I've read in a few places, I'm interested in your viewpoint, is that I've read a few other people saying that he seems better suited in maybe a 1A, 1B sort of tandem, which would obviously
Yeah.
limit his fantasy upside. So probably we're going to say landing spot dependent constantly over the next couple of months, but he feels one that is perhaps a little bit more landing spot dependent than others. Would you be worried about that, or am I overthinking it?
Yeah, well, I think you've only really got your top tier running backs now that are good enough to not be in a shared backfield at this stage. I think likelihood is most of these people are going to end up in a shared backfield. if he ends up somewhere with a bit of a weaker 1B, you gotta love that. But I'm not too concerned about it anymore. I think that's kind of just the way that the NFL is going, and you gotta trust that Jonah Coleman has the talent to prevail and come through, unless he gets one of those landing spots where you're like, oh god, the Colts took him, like really, like you're Jonathan Taylor, something like that, where you're like, well, there's just no way that he's going to get a fair shake of it. Kind of like whenever we seen Zach Charbonnet go over to the Seahawks, everyone just like, like just groans of disappointment because he was sharing with Kenneth Walker, who we all knew was a better running back than him. Unless that happens to Jonah Coleman, I'm still pretty happy about him as well.
I am really hoping I don't have to come back and clip if he lands with the Colts, as you prophesize in the future at some point, because that would be horrible.
Yeah.
Let's move across to wide receiver then, and the player who's being tipped to go the highest of those at the moment is Jordyn Tyson. So is great outside size, 6'2", 195 pounds, but he's also got a real good physicality and is technical enough across the field as well. For me, he just looks so confident and composed every time we see him. He just never seems to panic. He always seems to be in full control of what's happening. And if it doesn't go his way, just gets up and carries on again. Great acceleration, but doesn't feel quite as elusive as others. So that top end speed means he can get caught, but he's such a clever player. He creates enough space to sort of offset that, is my feeling with him at the minute.
Yeah, he's really, really fun to watch. He's a guy that I've had my eye on even from last year. Jordyn Tyson was really, really impressive. The release speed in particular, I really liked. Like his get up off the line, I thought was superb. And yeah, I like that you've put in your notes here that he's a really creative route runner. I've seen that as well. The elusiveness definitely comes up with his yards after the catch. I would love to see some more there, but it does seem to me that once he gets caught, he's going down. He doesn't really have that ability to shake off tacklers as much as I would like to see. Is that linked to him being a bit pensive because he has so many injuries? Is he just going down? We've seen players like famously Tyler Lockett. It's like, if I get touched, I'm going down because I don't want to get injured at all. Is that linked to it? I'm not really sure, but I'm sure you will bring it up. The big issue with Jordyn Tyson is he's never had a healthy season.
And that's what I think we're going to hear about all the way through the combine process. We'll hear about all through the team interviews.
Yeah,
we'll hear about on draft day if he's not going off the board as high as we think that is going to be in there. And I think for that, wherever we see him drafted, you just got to trust that the guys doing the medicals, the guys doing interviews, know far better than we do. And if he's taken off at a good point, I think we can assume we're good with that. That's how I always tend to go with injuries. But yeah. It's a feature in there, isn't it? And it's something we could well be talking about, rightly so, throughout the rest of the offseason. It's something we could mention and then never come up again. But yeah, we should see certainly a really exciting prospect. And I must mention, just a proper cool looking guy as well. This is one of my favourite pictures of any of the rookies that I've got on there. Just he's a handsome chap. And that adds on at least 2 fancy points a week, I think.
I think you get 2. The kids, I'm a school teacher. The kids call that aura forming. You know that? That's
yeah. When we're speaking of farming, let's go to wide receiver farming, and we have our next prospect from Wide Receiver University, Ohio. So next off the production line, and Carnell Tate is just so productive downfield threat, which is helped when you are 6'3". He's got a massive, great big wingspan and can make some difficult catches because of that. Another intelligent route runner, which offsets a bit of the top end speed. We're getting some of those similar traits here with some of these players here. But his speed is kind of what gives a bit of that separation. His yak seems to rely purely on the separation he creates beforehand. He's one I wonder, is he kind of good across the board and has no elite traits? But if you're good across the board, what are we worrying about when it comes to elite traits anyway? Where are you at with Tate?
I think he's 6'3". Like he's nearly 200 pounds, and he's coached impeccably well. You're gonna struggle to be bad whenever you've got those 3 traits together. He is superb at finding leverage in particular. That's why he's such a 1v1 nightmare down the field. I think that everything that he's been taught over at Ohio State, you can see it seeped in. He's learned it. He's able to use it. Based on what we've seen in the NFL, we know that translates from Ohio State to the NFL. So I don't really see too many problems coming in for Carnell Tate in terms of being a good NFL wide receiver. Whether or not we're getting an elite NFL wide receiver up for debate, I think. I think he shows really good body control, that really good catch radius as well. Lots of guys can do that in the NFL. Lots of people are able to do it. It's whether he can take it to the next level is kind of up to debate for me. That's why I'm slightly against consensus with Carnell Tate. He's actually my wide receiver 3 in this class, whereas most people would have him as their wide receiver 1 or 2. But I'm looking at the ceiling of Jordyn Tyson and a guy I'm sure we'll talk about soon as well.
Yeah, so let's move on to our next player, and I've got our first pun of the show ready for you. There is nothing to be sour about when it comes to Makai Lemon.
Yeah.
He is so polished as a route runner, and his use of speed is just fantastic. Not only does he kind of, he just seems to kind of that, there's got slow acceleration, he decelerates a brilliant way just to make a defender miss. So he does not just rely on his route, he's kind of selling people that change of pace as well. He's a yak monster, 502 yards after the catch, making up for 43% of his total yardage. That is quite a skill to have. I think out of these 3 players, when it comes to watching purely the available film, I think Lemon is probably my favorite prospect at this point. I've just really enjoyed watching what he can do. And he's a player that I think because of that, I'm going to find myself with quite a lot of in rookie drafts around that point. Where are you at with Lemon? What are your thoughts? I know you said you perhaps see him above Tate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm so impressed with Makai Lemon. He's in a tier of his own, wide receiver 1. There are no instances where I would take Jordyn Tyson or Carnell Tate ahead of Makai Lemon. If all 3 were on the board and I'm in 10 drafts, I'm taking Makai Lemon 10 times out of 10. That's how good I think this guy is. Just you mentioned that the yak is phenomenal. Any concerns about his size, which I'm sure will come up, there should be none, because the way that he plays in college, it never comes up. It's never a factor. The vertical leap that he has more than makes up for the inches that he lacks in his top end height. Like, he is just a phenomenal prospect, by far the most fun player to watch, I felt, at the wide receiver position. I looked forward to watching USC every single week last year because I couldn't wait to see what DBs Makai Lemon was going to put in a blender. I just absolutely loved everything about his game. There was nothing really that came up for me that I was concerned about. Even things like he was scrappy. He's got, like, that people talk about having like a dog in you. He's got that as well as all the technical skills. He's for me, he was the absolute total package, and any NFL team's going to be lucky to have him. I don't see any landing spot that I'm particularly worried about, because I think Makai Lemon could come in and just like like Jackson Smith and Jigba, it might take a year or 2, but eventually people are going to realize that he's the best wide receiver on any team.
And that was the name I was going to bring up. So quite a few people have thrown JSN in when talking about Lemon, and I think that's just as a wide dynasty point. You don't worry if it doesn't hit straight away. We're going to spend a lot of the offseason talking about year 2 wide receivers and why they're great to target.
Mm-hmm.
Say JSN has shown that sometimes you wait a year longer, you get the absolute amount, but a lot of people will have moved that JSN on after year 1, held on, moved on after year 2, and are regretting it now. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing where he lands, and it's a player that I'm really looking forward to watching a lot more of as well throughout the off season. If you're still with us and you're not subscribed yet, honestly, what you're playing at, you've got through nearly half an hour. Make sure you subscribe and stick with us through the off season. Another player you're going to hear a lot about when it comes to us referencing is the tight end 1 comfortably when it comes to the season. That is Kenyon Sadiq. He's in a clear tier of his own. I think because of that, he's probably going to go a little bit higher when it comes to the actual draft, because you can't wait on for someone behind like we had last year with Loveland and Warren. You thought if you missed one, you could maybe get the next. You've not got that luxury, and he may well be the only tight end to go in the top 2 rounds, possibly. He's got really quick feet, and you're seeing on there, he seems to really enjoy physicality. You've just seen on those little highlights there, he is quite happy to run into another human being and bounce off them and just continue again. He's definitely athletic, but does he lack a little bit of polish when it comes to the route running? But similar to what I've said to other players, are we worried about that when you've got the skills you can't coach? Are his weaknesses coachable coming into the league?
Yeah, I think definitely coachable with Sadiq. A lot of people will point towards the production and maybe think that there's maybe a lack of production there. I think Oregon did struggle a little bit down the stretch with injuries to all of their wide receivers, which meant that Sadiq was getting a lot more attention than a tight end normally gets in college. So I think that maybe did dampen his production down a little bit more than he would have expected if Oregon's receivers all stayed healthy. I think that you mentioned the word athlete. That's the word you're going to hear the most with Kenyon Sadiq. I think he's going to test really well at the combine. I mean, if he tests, I'm getting fed up with these guys not testing at all. So hopefully he does do some things in the combine at least to show off the athleticism that he has. I think he's got really good hands. There are some stuff that he can work on, but I mean that's rookie tight ends. That there will be stuff that they got to work on. Very few of these guys are natural tight ends. Most of them are wide receivers that have been moved over to tight end or quarterbacks a lot of the time that have been moved over to play tight end. One of the best tight ends in this class, Eli Stabers, was a 4-star recruit at quarterback before he was moved over to tight end. So there will be stuff to work on unless you're an absolute freak like Brock Bowers or Sadiq. I'm not going to give loads of comps for players, but I see so much of Sam Laporta whenever I watch Kenyon Sadiq. That's the guy that I would really comp him to if you're looking for what's his kind of play style. Go look at Sam Laporta. I think that's what I see.
Sadiq, for me, feels like we're probably going to have to wait a little bit longer to get kind of the return in Dynasty. So I suppose my question is, where, given the fact we've seen Bowers, Laporta, Warren, Loveland latter end of last season, we've seen people pay out year one.
Yeah.
Are people just going to expect that again? And because Sadiq is the clear best tight end in this class, is he going to go slightly higher than maybe he should?
Potentially, from the mock drafts that I've seen on the Dynasty Hotseat, Sadiq is going roughly around between pick 6 and 8, which seems about right. Usually, I don't think that he is as good a prospect as Tyler Warren or Colson Loveland were last year. He's obviously nowhere near what a Brock Bowers was. So he's typically a guy that you might see go in the second round of your normal draft with more depth. But that's kind of the nature of this 2026 class. Is there are a lot of high upside, typical like second round players that are going to be going in your first round.
Yeah, he's a player that I think he's absolutely going to translate. I think you said about the coming. If I remember rightly, did he join as a wide receiver and edge?
Yeah,
so I mean, right. you look at the build of him, you can see why that is. But yeah, it's me really interesting to see. They are the top names that we're looking out for then. The reason we've got one is for this expertise when it comes to our college profile. So next up, a real treat if you have stuck with us this far. We have got some hot picks. So who are these 3 players you've selected and why have you gone for these? Why should we be listening out for these names?
So I've given you a couple of names of players that have surprised me a little bit in some ways. Jamari Taylor was a guy that scored really well whenever I've just finished mopping up all the running back tape study. Jamari Taylor was someone that did really, really well in that. Antonio Williams was someone that I've seen that didn't have a ton of production because Clemson just stunk the place out. But whenever you've seen Antonio Williams play, you got a little bit excited. And Nick Singleton was a guy I said all year sucked. And then he finished up as my RB3, which kind of shocked me after doing my close tape study. I liked him a lot more. But if we start off with Jamari Taylor, he was just a super solid running back here. You're not getting anything like super special out of him. Apart from he had those things that we spoke about earlier, Emmett Johnson did not have. He had really, really solid pad level. He had all the fundamentals that he did really, really well. He wasn't a superb athlete, but he was a good athlete. He's super durable. He does everything right. And you look at it, you go, yeah, this is a guy that can come in and do a decent level as a really solid running back too on a team somewhere next year. And I've not seen the guy mentioned in any of the mock drafts that I've done. 1 round, 2 round sleeper picks. People aren't mentioning Jamari Taylor, so I think he's a sneaky guy that you can pinch in the 3rd round of your drafts that injuries happen at running back. I think Jamari Taylor is someone that could come in like someone like a Cal Monunga last year. And if there's a chance presents itself, Jamari Taylor is going to take it, I think. So he's a real solid guy to keep your eye on.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. There's those players that we will not be mentioned at all now, and then leap out. I've said about how Sadiq's our only tight end option. Aaron Gadsden proved that isn't always the case last year when he had a solid fantasy games, and we weren't talking about him. So yeah, he's really interesting to look out for. Nick Singleton, why out of the Penn State pair, why is he the one that you're drawn to the most?
I mean, honestly, I have not been that the entire year. I've been telling everyone that Katron Allen is better than Nick Singleton. And then whenever I went in to do my detailed tape study, I was like, God damn it, Nick Singleton's better than Katron Allen. Like, I've been wrong the entire year. Like, Singleton, obviously the big worry about him is that he's got broken foot currently. Like, we don't think he's going to be ready for the start of the season. It could take a while to heal up. But I was just super, super impressed with Nick Singleton. And I'm lucky enough to have access to, I use the Dynasty Hotseat film room, and they give all 22 angles. When you get to see behind the running back as they're running, so you can see the gaps and you can see where they're meant to run, and do they take the option? And Nick Singleton, I thought his vision was absolutely exceptional. He always took the right gap. He was super composed, super patient. He received the ball really, really well. That's a real weapon of his. He's a great pass catcher. While preseason, all you heard about Nick Singleton was he was this freak athlete with this unbelievable, acceleration and top speed. It's there. It's pretty good. But actually, he's a technician. He sees everything really, really well. He catches the ball really well. He's super patient. So that's where I was impressed with Nicholas Singleton. I think he can be another guy that he'll slip down the drafts because of this injury. He'll probably end up going, mid-second round a lot of time. And to my shock, because I never seen it coming, I think I'm going to have a lot of Nick Singleton. Like, who would have thought it?
And then when we're looking a little bit deeper as well, you're after those players that have it in their locker to give you some explosive big-time plays. A player's got a bit of versatility. Antonio Williams seems to tick those boxes, doesn't he?
He's just fun, right? He's just someone, he gets the ball and you're like, whoa, hold on. Like, it's, some players just look different when they get the ball, especially in college. And Antonio Williams is one of those guys, whenever eventually Clemson could actually get him the ball, like whenever Cade Klubnik wasn't falling over or throwing picks, when Antonio Williams got the ball, you're like, oh, hold on. Like, something might happen here, because he's super shifty. That pace shows up right away. It's hard to say exactly how far he's going to go, because there was so little to go off this year with Clemson. But from those little moments and those little spurts, that's kind of all you need sometimes for this like late third round, early fourth round pick kind of player. That's where I'm going to be pushing a couple of chips on Antonio Williams. Just those little tiny glimpses of hope that you have. I'm still yet to get to him in my deep dive for wide receiver tape, but I'm pretty excited to get there. Unfortunately, his name's Williams and he's at the bottom.
So they are your 3 hot seat hot picks, but I would like to just bring one more. I couldn't get a graphic for him because he's just too large of a human being to fit on a single screen. Adam Randall, a converted wide receiver, and he is big with a capital BIG, 6'2", 235 pounds, a converted wide receiver. So he's only had 1 year as a running back. Obviously, though, he is a natural pass catcher as a converted wide receiver. He's a massive hunk of humanity. Can't even get it out. He's that large. And he's the exact sort of outlier that I think I always look to want to take that gamble on. And I'm really looking forward to seeing where he lands. He's also the sort of player that I think I'm going to obsess and fixate about so much through the offseason. My consensus bias is just going to push him up much higher than maybe he is. What are your thoughts on Randall? Am I getting overexcited just because of the sheer size of the man?
Adam Randall was my lowest rated running back of all the running backs in college. And it's because he doesn't know how to play running back yet. It's nothing to do with the size. He just doesn't know how to play the position. In the technical scores I give him, it's like all bad, apart from receiving, obviously, where you're like, okay, there's some upside there, but it's like the pad level isn't great. And even the mental side of it as well. His patience, it's not that he's not patient, it's that his processing just is not there. He's not able to see these gaps and take these gaps at all because he doesn't know how to do it yet. Like he's tough and he's quick and he's durable and he's got all the physical skills are like, yeah, tick, 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 all good, but he just needs to learn how to play the position. And if you get someone that big and with that frame that can catch that well, that is exciting. But as of right now, he just doesn't know how to play a running back, unfortunately. But I do like the thinking because no one's taking this guy. He's going to go undrafted in pretty much every single league that you're in. And it might be someone that you stick in a taxi squad for 2 years. Then eventually this guy figures out how to play running back. And all of a sudden you got a truck that has the hands and the size. And things could start to get a little bit interesting. It's the exact same reason why last year I took a lot of Khalil Mullins. Khalil Mullins is not ready to be an NFL running back yet. He's sitting in the Tennessee Titans, getting better and better and better every week when he's not injured. But that's the kind of reason I took a lot of him in the 4th round last year, because I seen this absolute monster of a man, converted linebacker, who did a really good job at Michigan last year, smashing through on the goal line in this kind of small role. I still like Khalil Mullins long term because he's got those physical traits and tools. Adam Randall could be the same guy that you just stick in your taxi squad for 2 years in Dynasty and hope that he puts all these traits together and learns the position.
I mean, when we look at the players that I've fixated and end up on taxi squad, Keaton Mitchell could be when he landed with the Ravens, that just elevated, and that worked brilliantly for about 3 weeks, and I've not quite seen that paid since then. I think Randall is the exact way. He's going to land on a lot of taxi squads, sat right next to Riley Leonard, who I took every single place last year as well. But you're right. What are the chances that your taxi squad, your 3rd round picks, are going to pay off? I think this is the numbers that Rich Cooler at Fancy Sanctuary says. I think it's something like 3% that your 3 or 5% that your round 3 picks are going to be of any use to you. Chance are you're going to get it wrong. Take a gamble on someone who could have some of those traits. We shall see. But yeah, if it doesn't pay off, I will never say his name again, and we will never refer to this part of the show ever again either. Well, that is our rundown of the 2026 rookie class. So if you are just getting into your rookie research, hopefully there are a few names for you to keep your eye out there through the combine and beyond. Thank you massively, Mags, for coming on. We really appreciate having you on to share your expertise and wisdom. Where can and should everyone go and find you if they have not already done so?
Yeah, you can check out any stuff coming out from me at the Dynasty Hotseat over on YouTube. You'll get a weekly Dynasty show from myself and Ali and James. You'll get a weekly list show where we look at 9 things in the Dynasty world that we're breaking down and looking at. You'll get a weekly mock draft from me and any esteemed guests that might appear on the show. We've got a Devi team as well now that are bringing out videos every couple of weeks. It's all go over on the hot seat now, which is really, really good. And if you're listening from the UK, please check out the Dynasty Hot Seat Twitter page. Lots of information going up about a new event, the Fantasy Social, that'll be happening down in London in August. So make sure you come down and check it out. If you are in a home league with your friends and you find it tricky to find a spot to meet up, that's what we're thinking. It's a home for your home league. Come together, draft together, and have a good time.
And we will make sure if you're interested in that, the links to those are below in the comments now. So please go and check that out. You didn't even mention my favorite bit of the Hot Seat, Mags, the fixing the worst ever Dynasty team. What a feature that has been.
Yeah, that's been a hell of a lot of fun. Last 2 years, I took on. I mean, just to put in perspective how bad this orphan team I found was. The starting quarterback at the time was Jimmy Garoppolo, who was not on a team, I believe. So that's the kind of level. So that's going to be up and running again soon in the next couple of weeks. It'll be a review of how the last 2 years have gone. It's gone pretty well. We've gone from Jimmy Garoppolo as a starting quarterback to Jayden Daniels. So that's pretty good.
That's not too bad at all. So yeah, please do go and check out Dynasty Hotseat. Loads of fantastic stuff on there. Thank you again, Mags, for coming on. And I feel like you are the answers in the back of the book for me. So I feel I've got some of those right. Adam Randall, I will either mention constantly if I do get it right or never again. We shall see. Thank you very much, Roy. That is all from me. That is all from Mag. So, as always, there is nothing more to say than Malcolm, take us home.
You have been listening to the team from TH Fantasy Football. For more content, follow TH_fantasy_NFL on Twitter and Instagram.